Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make deep minimal house bass lines like this, 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 and this. So yeah, today we're going to be talking all about how to make these sort of like Fuse London, PIV record style, deep minimal house bass lines. They're very popular right now. I made a lot of videos on this style, and you guys have told me that you want to see more of this kind of stuff. So today we're going to be talking about this. And yeah, to go along with this video, I just dropped a new sample pack on my Bandcamp. The link is right at the top of the description. You can't miss it, which has 10 bass lines in this style for just $10. So you get 10 bass lines to work with. You can see we've got, for all of these, we've got MIDI, and then we have audio as well. So you can work with them. They're labeled with the BPM and the key, and these are just some super solid bass lines. Like I said, these demo tracks I just played you, those four all include bass lines from this track, and when you get, or from this pack, and when you get the pack, you also get this project file with the full samples and MIDI and presets, everything from those four demo tracks I just played you, so you can work with them as well and kind of get some drums to play with and stuff. And yeah, so all of this is available for just $10. Link is right at the top of the description. Definitely go check that out if you're looking for some new inspiration or just some new stuff to sort of tear apart for the style. You know, it's not just about using samples, but also a lot of times you can learn a lot from the samples that you can't see just listening to tracks. So yeah, link is at the top of the description. And let's dive in. So with these kinds of bass lines, usually I will go to about 125 or 126 BPM. Those tend to be the BPMs for this style, maybe 127 sometimes. And the key here is just going to be all about simplicity. So what I mean by this is you basically just kind of pick a key. Like let's say we're going to do F. And we'll start with that note. And then you just kind of add like some extra stuff in that key, if that makes any sense. I know that's a very simple way of describing it. But what I mean by this is like, okay, so we got F. Then we'll go to A sharp. And there you go, you have a bass line. Like you can see, it's really not that complicated to write these. It's just kind of sticking with that root note, and then just like, you know, the way you write it is to kind of like establish that, like, okay, F is the root note by having it be that first note. And then you just get these extra notes here. And then what it also comes down to is playing around with syncopation and 16th notes and stuff like that. So you can see the first two notes are just like, boom, 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 like that. And then with the second half here, we get these 16th notes. And that gives you kind of more groove. It's all about really simple notes, and then you just use the groove and the placement of the notes to really like tell the story, if that makes any sense. So let's try another one. So we'll do this one in G sharp, and same deal here. We'll do like, so again, just really simple. We're starting with G sharp for the root note, and then we're just using D sharp, the fifth, and B. the minor third. So these are all notes that are in the G sharp minor chord. So very simple stuff. And then if you couple this with some really nice groovy drums and some kind of simple sort of jazzy sounding chords and music stuff, you can really have something that works really well while still being very simple. You have to keep in mind with this style, it's really about like the groove and how everything is playing off of each other. So if you have a bass line, like if you just write in a bunch of notes and it's bouncing all up and down the scale, it's going to be really hard to follow. Versus if you keep something really simple, you can, make it simple and easy to follow and then kind of mix it up a little bit with the placement and get a little bit creative with that. With something like this. So that's how I go about writing the actual patterns. In terms of the sounds for the basses in this style, there's a lot of different things that you can do. The first way I like to make sounds is using FM synthesis. So the way FM synthesis works is essentially you would have your 4 oscillators, or however many oscillators your synth has, and then instead of just playing side by side like a regular subtractive synth would do, this synth will take those and they'll frequency modulate each other. And essentially what this means is you can make really cool kind of complex waveforms where, it can still be based on a sine wave. It can still have that same kind of like warm fatness to it. But then you can add stuff on top of that to just make it a little bit more exciting. So I'll show you what I mean. So we have the bass here. And it's just a pure sine wave. You wouldn't want to just use just a sine wave. Even though it is deep and fat, it's going to be kind of like thin sounding when it comes to the overall mix. So what I'll do here is we'll bring in the second oscillator, which is also a sine wave. Maybe the third one as well. And now you can hear we have this very nice sound where it's kind of like a sine wave still. But now it has a little bit more upper harmonic content. What I mean by this is if I put a spectrum on here, you can see. See how when right now it's just a sine wave? See how it's really just like that one note? That's the fundamental harmonic. That's what a sine wave is. It's just a fundamental harmonic. When we add these in, now you can see all these little spots over there. Those are the extra harmonics we're adding on top. And this is what you want to add because this way you can kind of hear the bass. When it's just a sine wave, you only really feel that low end. You don't really hear it just because it's moving too slowly to really like hear it. When you add these on, the upper harmonic content that you get makes it audible. If you're listening to this on phone speakers, for example, you probably couldn't hear it when it was just a sine wave. But now you can hear it. So yeah, so that's one way you can make a bass. We'll put a little bit of saturation on that. And I'll usually EQ it a little too, like cut out at 100 hertz, because that's usually where the kick is hitting, so you can cut that, and it'll make some more room for your kick in the mix. And then boost the lows a little. And there we go. So that's one way to make the bass sounds. We'll be using FM synthesis. Another way to make these kind of basses, which you can do with like just a regular synth, we'll use analog for this, is what you can get like either a square wave or a saw wave or a combination of both. And what you can do is you can just kind of, let's do a combination of both. So we got a saw wave and a square wave. We'll set the amp envelope like this. And you can hear this makes a very fat sound. The problem is it's a little bit too like electro and it's a little bit too open. So what we'll do is we'll just close the low pass filter here. And you can just make this like really subtle pluck where it's like gonna be barely a pluck. Like that. And there we go. And now you have still a very deep and warm bass, but it's got a little bit more fatness to it. Like I said, it's not just like a dry sine wave. It's got a little bit more upper harmonic content, just like the FM bass did. And then maybe we could pitch one of these down. That sounds good. And there we go. And so this is still a very deep and warm bass, but now it's, a little bit different. And this is going to fit really nicely under like a fat 909 kick or something like that you would use in this type of music. And then with this, we can do the same deal as that last one. Let's use drum bus on this one. fatten it up a little, get some EQ. And there it is. So that is how you would make these kinds of bass lines. We talked about how you put the notes together, the music theory behind it, kind of like what you want to keep in mind while you're working on it. And then we also talked about how to make some sounds for this style and how you can make these kind of really fat and nice basses on your own. You know, it's really not hard. I think this is just one of those things that a lot of people see it as more complex than it really has to be. You know, it really is quite simple to make a bass line in the style. It's just about making something really solid and nice and getting it to fit in the mix nicely. So yeah, so that's me for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the sample pack with 10 minimal house bass lines in this style for just $10 in the link in the description, and then you also get these demo tracks with it. And the full project file for all of those so that you can work with those and get some drums and all that kind of stuff. All of this, like I said, is in the description. And yeah, I look forward to hearing those in your tracks. Thank you so much, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.